figure out what vowel to use there yet. We'll have 4 more good talks today. The first one by a recidivist, someone who's been talking at earlier LAVIS, Crawford Feagin, who will tell us about 100 years of sound change in Alabama.
Those of us who've grown up here in Alabama have been witnesses to enormous changes, both in society and in the sounds of the language that surrounds us. While those whose roots are in the black community have no doubt experienced the most dramatic changes over these past 100 or more years, the white community has also witnessed great shifts in social structure, in power, in education, and in exposure to the outside world. Therefore, it should not surprise us in the least that there have been sweeping changes in the speech of the white community, which is what I'll focus on today. Over a number of years, I've been exploring the speech of the white community of Anniston, my hometown. For those who don't know Alabama, Anniston is a small industrial city located between Birmingham. Got it right. Sorry. For those who don't know Alabama, Anniston is a small industrial city located between Birmingham and Atlanta, about 120 miles east of here, in the foothills of the Blue Ridge. The population is about 75,000, including the outside suburbs. The scope of this study is extended over people born nearly 100 years apart, across the sexes, and across the socioeconomic spectrum. I've tape-recorded sociolinguistic interviews with a lawyer, a cabinet maker, and a tenant farmer, all born in the early 1880s. I have a banker's daughter and a railroad worker's daughter, both born in 1890. In addition, I have recordings of the granddaughter of that lawyer and the grandson of the banker's daughter, both continuing in their grandparents' social class, as well as recordings of their contemporaries on the other side of town, with parents who were mill workers or maintenance personnel in the factories of the town. Another cohort of speakers from both sides of town was added a generation later. I deliberately selected speakers from the opposite ends of the socioeconomic spectrum, which I can here label upper class and working class, in order to explore the range of speech in the local white community. All of the speakers were either born in or around Anniston or arrived there by the age of 5. This range of speakers can give us an idea of the direction of change in this town, both in apparent time and in real time, one of the growing number of such studies. All the material for the Anniston project is based on conversational, tape-recorded sociolinguistic interviews using the same equipment and the same interviewer, myself. Perhaps I should emphasize that none of the data comes from word lists. While we may have once thought of sound change as being somewhat monolithic, it turns out to be much more interesting than that, with some parts of the phonology changing drastically, other parts changing slowly, other parts pretty much maintaining a stable pattern of variation, with old features disappearing and new elements entering the pattern, like an elaborate Bach fugue, or perhaps a Rube Goldberg machine. First, I want to show you the main outline of these changes. Then I'd like to look at the motivations for these changes and see how they relate to similar changes in English elsewhere. What we'll look at are 5 segmental items and the more general pattern of vowel shifting across time. The segmental items are, some that have already been brought up here repeatedly this morning, post-vocalic tardisyllabic R, as in here, heart, and mother. What I call long I, the vowel often shown as AY in phonemic charts, as in I, my, sign, and sight. Short A, as in cab, can, and cat. The long open O of law, dog, and cough. And last, on, glad, and U, the vowel of tune, duke, and muse. The vowel shifts I'll show in vowel charts. Except for the vowel shifts, all material I'm discussing today is based on impressionistic rather than experimental data. The results shown in the handout are ordered from top to bottom, going from most conservative at the top to most innovative at the bottom. Let's start with R, or rather with R-lessness, perhaps the quintessential Southern sound. If you like the sound of it, listen carefully, because that feature of Southern speech is disappearing as we speak. Look at the data on the first page of your handout. In this chart, you can see that while presence of constricted R was not a local feature of the older upper class at 0 and 3%, it was definitely part of the rural or urban working class at the same age at 63 and 84% for the rural speakers and 87% for both the urban speakers. Jump over to the grandchildren, and you have 65 and 91% for the upper class and 86 and 92% for the working class. These percentages, incidentally, are based on between 150 and 300 running tokens per person. Clearly, powerlessness is a feature on its way out. On the other hand, what we find at what I call long I, or the vowel of I, nine, and white, is a very stable pattern, unchanged in over 100 years. This variable functions as a regional marker first and foremost, as LaViS pointed out, but also throughout the South as a serious marker of class membership. If you look at Table 2, you can see that for open syllables, the ungliding is almost total across the social spectrum. In fact, the meaning of unglided I and my in these particular items is, I'm seldom and proud of it. Closed syllables, however, tell quite a different story. Looking at closed syllables stopped by voiceless consonants, gliding or diphthongization in the upper class stands at 100%. In contrast, in the working class, it ranges between 0 and 40%. Obviously, this contrast between the social classes serves as a serious class marker. In fact, there are a number of shibboleths that capture this distinction, such as the phrase nice white rice or nice white rice. I should add, though, that the situation is much more complex before voiced consonants, but I want to expand on that today. A third widely noticed characteristic of Southern speech is the Southern drawl, the breaking or gliding and lengthening of short front vowels such as I, a, so that traditional monophthongs become diphthongs and even triphthongs.